Longtime friends and fans know that Kenpo is my primary martial art. We have the privilege today of speaking with Bob White, one of the foremost practitioners of that art today, and an overall excellent human being. We talk about martial arts for parents, for kids, for families, and as a tool to do good in the world. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. If you haven't yet, please hit like and subscribe. You'd be surprised how much that helps. While you're at it, tell your friends, find us on Instagram and Facebook, and even back us on Patreon, where you can get early access and other goodies for just a few bucks a month. Thanks for being here today. Now let's get to work. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Safest Family on the Block, where knowledge is power. I'm your host, Jason, and joining me today is the inimitable Bob White. Hello, Mr. White.
How are you?
I am fantastic. How about yourself, sir?
You know, I'm doing good. It's been a good day here in Costa Mesa.
Outstanding. Now, one way that my longtime viewers will be able to really comprehend Master White's expertise is, y'all know that I've been doing this for almost 40 years, and he's been a black belt longer than I've been alive. His career has included being an undefeated fighter in 1973 and 1974, 50 years of teaching karate, traveling all over the world to deliver seminars to martial artists. He was promoted to 10th degree black belt in 2018 under his own vigorous objections by a council of his peers, and has led the martial arts community, especially the Kenpo community, for more than 5 decades. And it's a real treat to have you on board today, sir. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, it's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start off with, you have a degree of martial arts expertise that is rare in the world. And how has spending your entire adult life immersed in this mindset impacted your views on safety?
Well, you get aware, and then you have various situations where people have come under attack. A lot of my students are police officers, and you know, we live in a very nice community here in Orange County, Costa Mesa. But all you really have to do is look in the newspaper every day, and you know the dangers out there doing push-ups, waiting for somebody. So I think being aware of that and having our children as well as the parents be aware that there is potential danger, I think it kind of it gives us a tool. It gives us a tool for we call it educated anticipation, to know that what could go wrong could happen. So and try to take the steps necessary to avoid having our children or our families hurt.
And especially with that awareness comes a degree of preparation, where
Correct.
You start thinking, what could go wrong? What would I do if that went wrong?
Well, there's no doubt that's true. And I looked at your books behind you, and I saw that you had the gift of fear there. And it's a great education. Gavin DeBecker did a wonderful job. But he also has another book, and that's Protecting the Gift. And that is a tremendous thing for parents to read, to better prepare their children, to recognize that fear is good. Fear is a gift. It lets us know when something's not right. Panic is terrible, but fear is a good thing. And if we could teach our children to recognize when they're not comfortable and listen to them when they tell you they don't feel good about something, or somebody makes them feel uncomfortable, realize that it is a real feeling, and many times it's a true feeling. And then we can take the steps necessary to keep them from danger.
And one point I especially liked about that book was, when a child comes to us afraid of something or uncomfortable, even if what they're afraid of isn't real or isn't serious, their fear is real, and we should treat it and respect it as though it is real, and engage with them meaningfully around that, so that they feel respected and comfortable coming when there is a serious situation. And also just to model how we as adults handle fear ourselves and treat potential threats.
Well, I agree completely. You know, it's a very, very good book. And as I mentioned, a lot of my students are police officers, and this is suggested reading from various police departments, because there's so much material on here. My wife actually has a big Zoom meeting with a lot of the people from Microsoft up in the Seattle area later on this week. And she'll really take a lot of the excerpts from the Gift of Fear, and it will be part of her presentation because it's so well put together. So definitely recommended reading.
Is absolutely phenomenal. The kind of tongue-in-cheek way that I recommend it is I have a good friend who's a police officer whose luck with women has not done him well, but every time he breaks up with a new partner, one of the first things he says is, damn it, I have to go buy a new copy of The Gift of Fear.
Yeah, that's funny.
Right? I mean, a lot of us have that have that relationship with the Beatles' White Album. Every time you break up with somebody, they get it. But yeah. So as you've gone through, again, you've had so much experience training martial artists. What are some things that you would like to see experienced martial artists, intermediate martial artists change about their training or their approach to safety?
Well, I think that a lot of times, we always talk about being a warrior. And what I'd really like to see people change is people being a warrior for their health. Self-defense is defense against not necessarily another person, but it's against letting yourself deteriorate physically so that you don't have the ability to fight off disease or other things that could come your way. One of the big things with our soldiers, with our warriors, special forces, is that they're in such great physical shape because their chances of combat are much greater than the normal person. But if we're really interested in self-defense, we have to know that fitness is a major part of it. A couple of years ago, I had 2 cancers at one time. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was in decent shape, I don't know if I would be here right now. But I think the conditioning had a major part of my recovery. And I think that's consistent lifestyle. A lot of it, lifestyle is staying out of places where there is trouble. A lot of times, if you're in an environment where alcohol is being served, there's a much bigger chance of you getting into a conflict or having to defend yourself against somebody who is not thinking correctly. So I think all of those things is, besides the physical part of training part, a lot of it is when you're comfortable with yourself, that you're in good physical shape. I think that the fact that you are comfortable, you're less likely to be threatened and feel that you have to go to the physical part. So it's a lot in how you carry yourself. There's a great book by Gavin DeBecker. I'm sorry, not Gavin DeBecker, by Peyton Quinn. And Peyton Quinn, it's called Real Fighting. And he talks about how a fight breaks into different increments. And one of the major parts is, of course, recognizing your fear, just like Gavin DeBecker said. And the next part is very interesting. It's the interview. And an interview doesn't necessarily have to be verbal. It could be just an assessment on how you're carrying yourself. And if you're carrying yourself with confidence and you believe in yourself and you hope that it never would have happened, that it never would happen, that you're going to get threatened, but it is taken place and you're ready because you've taken the steps to prepare yourself. And then maybe the interview will go in the right way and nothing happens. But at least you've got yourself in a right mindset.
It's one of those ironies of training that the longer you train, the more skills you develop, the less likely you'll be called upon to use them unless you
that's true.
have a job that requires it. No.
Well, it's
and
very true.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing up the fitness aspect because, if you are a middle-class person in a developed country, which is what most people who train in martial arts are, your chances of getting into an assault are very, very low. Whereas your chances of dealing with some kind of the threat of a chronic illness, that all of us are going to deal with that.
Well, correct. And, a simple thing like learning how to fall and roll, because the chances of you falling and hurting yourself are much greater than somebody attacking you. So your ability to roll up into a ball or not touch your elbows, not touch your head, and not touch your knees saves you from injuries, which might have taken place if you didn't have those things. Where I play a lot of tennis, and where I play a lot of times there's a lot of moisture. And the fact that I know how to roll has saved me numerous times when I've done this forced yoga out there when it's wet surface, but it saved me from getting hurt because I knew how to adjust to the ball.
I think every experienced martial artist I know has that same opinion, that it might have been 20 years since we had to go hands on with someone, but I'll fall down twice this month.
Yeah, well,
You know.
exactly. Yeah, it certainly happens. And my wife's a nurse, and she's constantly treating people in the hospital that are in there because of falling and breaking something. That's how my mother ended up, was the start of her demise when she fell and hit her head. So it's certainly out there. Statistics reinforce that. So just knowing how to roll could probably help you a lot anyway.
And it's funny how a lot of martial arts training, we focus on the kicks and the punches, but it's kind of the stuff we learn in the corners of that, learning how to fall so you can be a good training partner, learning how to walk better, paying more attention to your fitness and your health. That seems to be the most important value we get from the training.
Well, I truly believe that. One of my black belts, her name is Tana Amon. She's very well known, has written quite a few books, but that's a term she uses quite often. In fact, that was the name of her black belt thesis, being a warrior for your health. And she does big talks with thousands of people in the audience and talks and addresses just that issue, how critical it is to not only work out, but to eat properly and things not to eat.
Yeah, I have said, although I don't walk this as well as I talk it, that at my age in my neighborhood, self-defense for me is eating less cheeseburgers and taking more walks.
But it is self-defense. I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying, but it is something that will make you live longer. And the opportunity to be around for our families longer. I don't think that could be underplayed. We have a responsibility. And as a martial artist, especially somebody that has rank as a black belt teacher, example's the best teacher. If you're out there and you're 50 pounds overweight and you're telling your students you got to stay fit, you're setting a very poor message. It's going to be very hard to believe, and your credibility is affected very negatively.
Yeah, what was the Master Ken from Enter the Dojo's joke about about Kenpo?
Oh, yeah,
Unfortunately,
exactly.
yeah. Viewers, both Mr. White and I are practitioners of Kenpo, and there was unfortunately fad's the wrong word, or an unfortunate habit among some of the senior students of getting pretty overweight, and we can joke about it together, but it's a serious topic.
Well, and it certainly is, and there's really no reason for it other than a lack of discipline. I guess there could be somebody that has medical issues that stops them from doing some things, but I think there's a lot to be said for discipline and push-ups, and in some cases push away from the dinner table a little bit quicker. But that Master Ken has a lot of the things are funny because they're based on truth.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of them.
Absolutely. So let's take it from the other's perspective. So, we've talked about martial arts, parents as martial artists, but there's also a lot of parents who have no martial arts training whatsoever and either lack the time or the money to make it happen. What are some advice that you would give to parents who aren't trained or not interested in training so that they can better protect their kids?
Well, if they're bringing their kids to the studio, they're investing in their children. And I think it would be wise on their part to investigate their investment. Find out if the school they're at is a legitimate school, not a franchise, where the people are better trained in extracting your money than they are in teaching your children self-defense. I think also find out the history of the school that you're involved in, and find out where the instructors come from. Some studios will advertise instructors wanted, no experience necessary. At our school, what we try to do is all of our instructors are homegrown. In some cases, they've been with me since they were 4 years old, and now they're 40. But we have a history with them, and we know their background, we know their credibility and their character. I think it's important for parents to research and find out about where they're letting their kids study. I know some schools don't let the parents watch, and I'm a parent. I would never allow that. You know, I want parents to sit on the bench and I want them to ask questions and be involved. But to have them not watch the class so your kids are behind a locked door or closed door, that would make me very nervous. I also, our windows of our studio are completely open. Anybody's welcome to come in and watch the classes and find out exactly what it is we're doing. We're very much interested in having our kids develop not only their physical skills, but develop their self-control, their character, knowing right from wrong, how to help people, help other people. That's part of the atmosphere that I want. You know, I really like that culture of coaching where people are helping each other.
Yeah. Another thing that was brought to my attention, shameless plug, we have an episode where I interview Chris Wilder and Jeremy Lesniak about how to pick a school for your kids. And Jeremy mentioned just going to the Facebook page and finding out if what's happening on their social media is all about their students or all about the teacher's ego.
Yes. Well, that's a very valid point. You know, you want to get, you know, like I talked about with Peyton Quinn, he talked about the sacred increment of the fight as the interview. Well, I think it's important that a parent interview the instructor, have a list of questions that make you feel more comfortable that you're putting your child in an environment that you know that you're going to get him the best opportunity or her the best opportunity for the development of those things we talked about, not just physical skills, but the importance of knowing right from wrong and self-control. You know, at our school, we have completely around the perimeter of the school, we have a lot of blocks from Coach John Wooden's Pyramid to Success. And it is just a great learning tool. In fact, there's a book I encourage our parents to get for their kids. It's called Inches and Miles, and it's by John Wooden. And, you know, he was voted the greatest coach in the history of American athletics. He's just very, very well respected. But one of the blocks he has is self-control. And self-control is defined as learning to control yourself so others don't have to, whether it's the school principal or the police or the warden or whatever. But if you get some discipline in your life and realize that emotion is your enemy, you know, anger and fear, which are closely related, if they're not controlled, then they can certainly become an enemy that will affect maybe the course of your life, or certainly affect the decisions that you make.
Now, one of my pet peeves might be strong or maybe even sound flippant about parents who get their children involved in martial arts is, you know, this is something that has the potential to change your child's life. And it's on us as parents to make sure it changes it for the better. And how many parents, it's either how long the drive is from the house, or if it's $10 cheaper than the next dojo down the road, seem to be the deciding factor for so many parents.
No, I agree completely, Jason. And you see it all the time. And, you know, getting that extra 5 minutes or extra 10 minutes to get a school that's going to give them the best service. You know, it ends up, and I've been doing this, as you mentioned, for a long time. In fact, today I had a lunch with one of my students who started with me when he was 4 years old, and he just graduated from law school. He's waiting for results on his bar exam. But it's been a great relationship watching him grow up and learning that discipline that encouraged him to do his homework and do the things necessary. Because if you get a black belt, there's a lot of discipline involved. And when that's one of a major things when children or high school graduates go into a college, if the interviewer at the college finds out that they have a martial arts background and they've gotten their black belt, it carries a lot of weight because it shows discipline in their lives. And that's what we want to do. We're not interested in having the toughest kid on the block. We are interested in having somebody have the balance and the self-control and confidence in themselves to handle life's challenges, because life is full of challenges. Life's hard. But if you can do that in a non-emotional manner, make decisions based on logic rather than emotion, they have the best chance to have great lives. And that's wonderful to see. We've seen it so many different times that, I know that karate works. It works not only in self-defense, but it works in helping to shape lives.
Another one that has really, that I see the importance of with the difference between in the writing community, just people with a martial arts background or an athletics background or a music background and other folks, is the ability to take feedback and correction without it getting inside your head. Because on the deck, on the way to black belt, you're going to hear 1,000 times, turn that foot 45 degrees, move your hip, change the thing. You're doing that wrong, do it better next time. And eventually you just get used to it.
Well, you do. We tell our people, appreciate all the input and take what you have as value, or take it as something that's important, apply what is good for you, and then build on. The instructor-student relationship is something I've done a lot of seminars on, and it's so important that it be based on trust, because once the trust has been violated, it's really difficult to get that back. And I'm talking about trust being violated by maybe giving somebody an unrealistic assessment of their abilities, telling them they're ready for a belt test and they're really not, tell them they're ready for a tournament, they're ill prepared. Those are all violations of trust. So you really have to be careful on your words and the way that you help your students grow to another level. But trust is critical in any relationship, especially with a young kid. You want them to believe in you and take the coaching so that they can get where we all want them to go.
And everything you just said, I think, also applies to the relationship between a parent and a child.
Well, no question. As you mentioned, acknowledging the fact that they feel fear and not dismiss it. Don't tell them they're being silly, but counsel them and try to help them on how to handle that situation. But you have to acknowledge them and you have to validate them. To not do that, then they will lose trust in you, and they'll hold their feelings to themselves and not share with you and not feel comfortable in sharing. And you certainly want that open door of communication.
Yeah, that has absolutely been a through line through the more than 50 interviews I've conducted so far with experts from every field you can imagine about the first line of defense is open lines of communication and trust with your kid.
Correct.
It's just another form of self-defense.
Yes, it is. It is.
So, sir, you've been, as we've been saying, practicing martial arts for a very long time. In those years, what was the biggest surprise?
Well, that's a tough question, Jason. I haven't had that before. The biggest surprise is it came to me actually about 30 years ago. And I've been in love with athletics. I was an athlete in school, played baseball and football, and I really fought a lot competitively. But I realized about 30 years ago that I would have a much more successful school when I quit thinking about how much money I would make and put more emphasis on what type of service I would give to my students. So I think being in service has given me more pleasure and more financial reward. That's not why I did it, but the reality of it is my school grew tremendously when we put all of our emphasis on being the best studio, given the best learning opportunity, developing the best tools for our people to progress. And our school just got larger. We've been at this location here for over 40 years. And if I look back the last 40 years of the various schools that have opened and are no longer here, it makes me very grateful. But I can attribute to that fact that it was all about service. It wasn't that I was so charming, or that I was so great on the mat, such a great fighter. It was more about service. And so that was a surprise that I didn't know the first 20 something years of my education. But, I think with maturity, we move away from pain and toward pleasure. And pleasure is helping other people. And so we've done a lot of things differently. My wife is wonderful. She's just a great person, a great teacher, and it just adds to the service that we're able to give to our students.
Wow. And that's another lesson that maps directly to parenting, where you focus on the joy of the service you can give to our kids. It starts to eclipse the sleepless nights and the worry and the arguments about homework and all of those little things.
Yes.
So, Mr. White, I wanted to ask you to speak a little about the Bob and Barbara White Invitational and the Royal Family Kids. I only found out about this in your bio, but it's such a cool and important project. I'd love for my viewers to hear about it as well.
All right. And again, it goes to service. I'll give you a quick breakdown how we got involved. One of my students asked me to do a demonstration for some children, and I said I would do it. And be honest with you, I drove up to where the demonstration was going to be held. I didn't know it was at Lake Elsinore or Lake Arrowhead, and it was like a 2-hour drive. So I'm kind of going up there. I got to be careful, thinking I had to be careful what I agree to do, that this is really a big inconvenience. And I went up there and I was immediately convicted. These children have been abused terribly. They live in a foster care system. Some of them, I'll tell you some horror stories. One of the kids had like a brand on his back with an iron. How his mother had put this brand on. It was terrible, terrible. So I went up there and realized, being convicted, that I had to do more. And so I didn't really know what to do. And the next year we went up and we did they have a camp every year. Now there's 250 camps all around the world, but this was the first camp. It's Newport Mesa church that puts it on. So we went up the next year, and then after we did our seminar, our demonstration, one of my black belts said, we should throw a tournament. I said, I've thrown tournaments since 1973. I'm really not interested in doing one. I go, unless we do one for charity. Not even thinking about what charity to do it for. So I got home, I told my wife, and she goes, let's do a tournament for Royal Family Kids. I go, that's a great idea. So we did, and my plan was, and her plan was, we'll raise $400 or $500 for these abused children. Well, the first year we raised $12,000. The next year we raised $24,000. Next year we raised $48,000. Next year $75,000. Now we've raised over $1 million from that one seminar down a demonstration that we did up there. But what's happened, our whole school and the Kenpo community, so many people have come from all over to support what we're doing. So it turned out, and again, this is one of those surprises that you asked me about a minute ago. The surprise was that it would take off so well and so many people would get behind helping these kids. So it's been a wonderful experience. Now Barbara and I have, well, I say Barbara and I, and I don't mean that. Our team that we have here has started camps down in South America, in Chile. We gave $10,000 down there. Now they have 13 camps they do every year. But Royal Families, the head of Royal Families, a guy named Wayne Tesh and his wife, Diane Tesh. And like I said, they have over 250 camps throughout the world, South Africa. I mean, just all over the world. It's really has become a tremendous thing. And I really am so proud of our community that has rallied behind this thing and tried to make it grow and help it grow. Last year, because of COVID, we didn't have our normal event, but we're still able to give $70,000 to the kids. In fact, my wife, as I mentioned, is a nurse. She was the camp nurse this year as well. And she went up to, they didn't do a normal camp where they spend the night up at Lake Arrowhead, but they had one at a local church. But the kids still got an opportunity to be treated. Why it's called royal families is because the kids are treated like royalty. And some of these kids have never had a birthday before, and they get an opportunity. They have a big birthday celebration, and they learn arts and crafts and singing. And my wife created, the Kenpo Creed. Well, our kids at the camp, rather than saying the Kenpo Creed, learn Bible verses. And when they do a Bible verse, they get certain rewards for doing that. So it's really been a wonderful experience. Here I thought I'd go up there and help some kids, and in reality, those kids have helped us become better people. So it's been a wonderful process. But thanks for asking about that. It is something that we're really behind. We look forward to 2022, where we'll have we have a banquet Friday night. We have all day Saturday. We have seminars with Graham Lely. I mean, some of the very best Kenpo black belts in the world. We have, one year we had 70 people come in from Ireland. And so we have seminars on Saturday, and then Sunday we have a tournament. And at the tournament, we have silent auctions where people can invest on donated items. We throughout the years, we've given a lot of stuff, Kobe Bryant stuff that everybody wishes they would have bought now, unfortunately, with his death. But it's been a great thing for our school. I think it's been a great thing for the community. I love win-win-win situations. The kids win, we win, and the community wins. So you can't beat that.
Yeah. Outstanding. And I'll be sure to let folks know about that when it starts coming up. Let the viewers know, maybe do a little 5-minute talk with you on Facebook to see what support we can drum up, because I think most of my viewers would want to support this as well.
Wonderful.
So, Mr. White, I want to thank you so much again for coming on. And I've got just one more question for you. And
Yes,
I mean, you teach all over the world. You do interviews like this often. You've written, you've been interviewed, you've spoken. Is there a topic you don't get enough opportunities to talk about? And if so, please talk about it.
Well, my favorite topic, and I've done DVDs on it, and a lot of different seminars on it, is just coaching and what an influence that coaches have. And remember that parents are our first coach. Being a good parent has such an unbelievable influence on our students and on our children. So I think that coaching, and if parents would study more, they always talk about there isn't a handbook on being a good parent. Well, there is. There's the Bible, and there's a lot of things you could read on coaching and communication that will help you with your children. So I think that would be the main thing. I think I was fortunate when I first started becoming an instructor. We had classes with Ed Parker, and we'd go up to Pasadena and we'd learn how to communicate, how to motivate, how to make suggestions without being offensive, and telling people what they're doing right as opposed to what they're doing wrong, and giving a reward for change. All those things are tools that most people have not had that opportunity for an education. And I heard a guy say one time, a guy lost in a tournament, his student lost, and he came up to him, he goes, "Come in Monday night, I'm going to tell you what you did wrong." And I'm thinking in my mind, I go, what if you would have told him, you did good, it showed a lot of courage for you to get out there, but let's see if when you come in Monday night, if we could think of some ways to improve. I mean, that sounds so much better than just telling them, you did a lot of things wrong. So I think terminology, phraseology makes a big difference in delivering a message. Ed Parker would say that tact is the ability to make a point without making an enemy. And I think when you tell somebody they're doing something wrong, that maybe the guard comes up. You tell them how to do it right, maybe they're going to embrace what you have to say.
And that, again, just dovetails right into parenting and communicating with our kids.
Certainly does, Jason.
Well, thank you again, Mr. White. I really appreciate you coming on today. Folks, if you want to know more about him, I'll make sure that we put the links to his karate studio and down in the show notes. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Stay safe. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jason.
Today's episode was brought to you by our heroes over at Patreon. Todd Elner, Beth Edwards, Douglas Sedevy, Hugh O'Donnell, Art Brick, American Institutes of Kenpo, Beth Pratt, Richard Hubbard, Wayfinder Advantage, Kit Bradley, Lee Douglas, Amy Rivers, Neil Fastine, Kate Carlson, Brom Payton, Jenny Coakley, and Chris Jordan. Join the illustrious heroes by backing us at patreon.com/safestfamily. If you can't, that's okay, but do consider liking us and subscribing here on YouTube or sharing your favorite episodes on social media. Even a little bit on your end can make a lot of difference here. Thank you for watching today. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.